All right, boys and girls, let's talk about something pretty fancy and important to your math educations, young grasshoppers, and that is the distributive property. Yeah, that's super straight. Okay, so the distributive property and how to use it. So I'm going to start, before I start doing these examples up here, I just wanted to start with a simpler one, more basic, and really talk about what it is, draw a picture of it, what's happening here. So I have three groups of 25. So I'm going to talk about this as pennies. I could arrange these pennies into squares, 5 by 5 squares. And if I have a 5 by 5 square, I would have 25 pennies. All right, so I could have three of these. I could have three of these squares. And that would be what I have, right? 3 25 squares, three groups of 25 is 75. Now, the distributive property works like this. It says, well, you know what? These 25 pennies didn't need to be grouped like this into groups of 25. Maybe these 25 pennies instead, maybe these 25 pennies are broken up into groups of 20 and with 5 hanging out, with 5 remainder. I'm going to put that a little bit closer. So maybe this is groups of 20 with 5 on the side, but we still need 3 of them. We still need 3 groups of those. So instead of grouping them into one group of 20, or instead of grouping them into groups of 25, take a look at this, what I'm going to group them into. I'm going to group them into 20s. So now I've got 5 by 4 makes 20. And then I've got 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hanging out. Let's do it like this. Maybe that's how I want to do my pennies, and I've got 3 groups of that. So I've got my group of 20, my 5 by 4 rectangle, plus my 5 pennies. And I've got my group of 20 plus my 5 pennies. So I have essentially the same thing, except instead of 3 groups of 25, I have what? And this is where the distributive property comes in. I have 3 20s. All right, I have the 3 20s. Plus I have 3 5s. Whoa, what happened there? Let's see here. All right, let's get back on track. It is getting late for Senior Marcus here. Let's go. Let's do, and then 3 5s. That's what I have. 3 5s. Tres cincos. Por favor. There we go. So here, what do I have? Instead of just nice 3 25s, and that makes 75, I have 3 20s. 3 20s makes 60. And 3 5s makes 15, but still when I add them together, I still get 75. These are equivalent. 3 groups of 25 and 3 groups of 20 plus 5, right? Here are my groups. Here's a group, here's a group, here's a group. All right, 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups. And when I look at them the other way, I have 3 20s plus 3 5s. That's the distributive property. It was neater in my head. So if that is confusing to you, buckle up, boys and girls, because this is not going to get easier. Maybe it will. All right, so let's see here. Math is not supposed to be easy anyway. It's supposed to be challenging, good for the brain. Let's feed it, huh? So let's just break this up. Let's just say, you know what? Let's make an equivalent expression here. Let's say that 28 could be broken up into 20 plus 8. Because it can. So I've got 28 63s. So let's say 28 is broken up into 20 plus 8, and 60 is broken up into 60 plus 3. Now, instead of just having 28 63s, what I now have is 28 60s and then 28 3s. But the 28 is also broken up. So I'm going to end up with something like this. I'm going to end up with 20 60s and 23s, 20 60s plus 23s All right, so I've got 20 groups of 63. So 20 groups of 60, 20 groups of 3. So that's that part. But now I need the 8 because I need 28 groups. So now I've got 8 groups of 60 and 8 groups of 3. See how this looks like we're distributing here? We're taking this 20 and passing it out to both of the other terms here. And we're taking the 8 and we're distributing it. We're passing it out. We talked about tests and papers, passing out the 20s to everybody and then passing out the 8s. So now we got to do that with the 8. So we're going to add 8 groups of 60. Eight groups of 60 plus 8 groups of 3. Why isn't this working? Thank you. Plus 8 groups of 3. And then they want us to simplify, so let's go ahead and multiply this all out. What's nice about this is 20 times 60 is easier to do than 28 times 63. Granted, we have to do a lot more of it, but 20 times 60, 2 times 6 is 12, with a couple zeros. 20 times 3 is 60. 8 times 60, 8 times 6 is 48. Add a 0. And 8 times 3 is 24. Now if I go to add all those up, I get 1,200 plus 60 plus 480 plus 24 is 1,764. That would be my final answer. So that's what we did there. I'm going to skip B because it's very similar to A, but I am going to do C because it's a triple digit number being multiplied, triple digit and a double digit being multiplied. Let me just clear some space down here. All right. So let's do C. So let's break up 458. So 458 can be broken up into 400 plus 50 plus 8 and times 15, which could be 10 plus 5. Could have left it as just 15, but I find multiplication easier when we break it up according to their place values. So I need to take the 400, and say I have 400 of these 10 plus 5s. So that means I have 400 10s and 400 5s. 400 10s plus 400 5s. All right, so I distributed the 400, so now let's distribute the 50. So I've got 50 10s and 50 5s. Did it again. All right, let's make this work. Bear with me here. This is not the smoothest video Mr. Marcus has ever put forth. All right, and then this is, what is this? Okay, where are we? So 50 groups of 10. We're distributing the 50 to that second factor. 50 10s and 50 5s plus 50 5s. So I distributed the 50 to both of those terms, and now I need to take 8 and have 8 15s. But it's going to be 8 10s and then 8 5s to make 8 15s. So 8 10s. So I've got 8 10s and then 8 5s. So 8 groups of 10 plus plus 8 groups of 5. All right, so let's take a look at what we have. So if you look at the 15, so we have 15 458 times. We have 15 458 times. So here we've got 15 400 times. We have 15 50 times. And then we have 15 8 times. So a total of 458. So that is the equivalent expression as this all written out. All right, this is the distributive property. 400 times 10, 4,000. 400 times 5, 2,000. 50 times 10, 500. 50 times 5, 250. 8 times 10 is 80. And 8 times 5, 40. So if I add all those together, 4,000 plus 2,000 plus 500 plus 250 plus 80 plus 40 should get me 6,870. And cross my fingers, if I multiply 458 times 15, I should get the same answer of 6,870, which I do. So that checks out. All right, that's the distributive property, folks. Have a good one.